Have you ever wondered if all these strange things happening one after another around us are direct warnings from God, urging people to get ready for the end times, that moment when everything will change forever? While the world keeps spinning with its busy modern life, these unusual signs suddenly explode, coming fast and thick, not giving anyone a chance to ignore them. From a winged angel falling into a small town, leaving the crowd stunned and filming in panic, to soft golden rays breaking through thick clouds thousands of feet up, showing the thin line between heaven and earth. Over the Euphrates River in the Middle East, thunder roared like an ancient trumpet, lighting up a mighty image of Jesus in the sky, while nature suddenly went dead quiet and animals froze solid for 7 chilling minutes. Deep under the river, man-made tunnels with ancient Levitical priest symbols have been uncovered, leading to huge stone statues of winged figures chained up in the dark. These events aren't random. They're powerful signs that God is unleashing as history and prophecy collide, and time feels like it's running out. But what's really behind all these things? Keep going deeper, because what's about to be revealed could change the way you see the world forever. Don't look away. The truth is waiting right below. And so, you don't have to wait any longer. Let's jump right into a few of these amazing events. 1. A woman with wings like an angel suddenly falls to earth. Something shocking has come down from the sky, leaving witnesses stunned and starting a worldwide debate that's still going strong. A woman with wings like an angel has landed in our world, not in some old legend, but right here in real life, like a stark sign from above. There was no thunder to warn anyone, no big ceremony, just that moment when the air seemed to rip open, making everyone who saw it wonder if they just witnessed something that shouldn't show up in our time. It happened in a small park next to a forest, in a quiet town in the Midwest of the United States, where afternoons usually mean just the wind rustling through the trees and kids playing on the grass. But that peace was suddenly broken when a figure plunged down from above, freezing everything in place, and the familiar calm was gone for good. The woman was wearing a pure white dress, spotless, no dirt or tears, as if it had never touched this world. Her large wings, covered in feathers, spread out wide on instinct, landing on an open patch of ground in a strangely gentle way. The crowd gathered around in a panic, phones held high, cameras shaking, whispers spreading like wildfire. When she realized she was surrounded, she gently raised her wings to shield herself. Not aggressive, not attacking, just a calm and serious look in her eyes that reminded people of the unusual silence mentioned in ancient biblical lands. That moment made many think of the book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 9, where the Bible describes the fall from heaven to earth. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil, and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. This story isn't just about a war in heaven. It's also a warning that things cast out from the heavens won't vanish. They might appear among people at a time that's already set. Of course, the skeptics spoke up right away. They called it a hoax, some fancy costume, a product of imagination and modern tech. But the eyewitnesses insisted those wings moved naturally, not mechanically. No wires, no CGI signs, and videos shot from different angles only made scientific explanations seem awkward. In the end, who is she? A fallen angel thrown down like in Revelation? Or a messenger sent to wake up humanity? That question challenges how we think about God's intervention and forces each of us to come up with our own answer. But if this really is the first sign of fallen beings, then what's still hiding up in the sky, waiting for its turn to appear? And is the world ready for that? 2. Heavenly light, shining through the clouds. High above the earth, someone captured a breathtaking sight. One that doesn't just catch your eye, but touches your soul. It lights up that thin line between heaven and us, like it was never meant to stay closed forever. This wasn't seen from the ground, not with mountains or city buildings in the way, but from up in the air, in that place where people leave the earth for a little while and brush right up against the sky. From thousands of feet up on a regular commercial flight crossing the Pacific Northwest, where huge layers of clouds stretch out like a white ocean, this scene suddenly appeared to the passengers. No warning, no bad weather, just a moment when light from above shot straight down. It left many people speechless, hands shaking as they reached for the airplane window, like they were seeing something not meant for ordinary folks. The fluffy white clouds were bunched together like giant cotton balls, then suddenly pierced by sharp golden rays that were almost scary in how clear they were. The light didn't scatter everywhere. It poured down in straight, orderly columns, on purpose, creating a scene that felt both majestic and holy. Many described it as the gates of heaven cracking open a little, giving quick glimpses of glory and making the line between heaven and earth feel so thin it took your breath away. The picture right away brings to mind the book of Acts, chapter 7, verse 55, when an ordinary man was allowed to look through that invisible curtain. But he, full of the Holy Spirit, looked up to heaven and saw the glory of God and Jesus standing at the right hand of God. In the Bible, moments like this are never just random. They happen when a bigger message is being sent, when heaven and earth meet for a short time. Scientists quickly stepped in and called it an atmospheric optical phenomenon, sunlight passing through clouds at a rare angle. But that explanation feels flat next to the details that give people chills. The rays had clear structure, stayed long and steady in a way that's unusual, and dozens of witnesses all talked about the same deep peace they felt, like fear, noise, and even time itself stopped in that moment. So is this just nature showing off one of its rare beauties? Or is heavenly light trying to signal something much bigger? A reminder that the sky isn't as silent as we think. The debate is still going strong, spreading across social media and faith forums. But if this light really is an invitation from God, what might come down through those clouds next? And could it mark the final awakening of mankind? Or is he purposely letting his chosen children see the world he created thousands of years ago? What do you think? Let me know your answer in the comments below. 3. Unusual lightning over the Euphrates sky. Across the ancient Euphrates River in Mesopotamia, that's modern-day Iraq, the sky suddenly lit up with fierce bolts of lightning that broke all the usual rules of nature. They struck down not in random chaos, but with a kind of angry purpose, like someone pounding hard on the door to the human world. This isn't some strange land to the Bible. It's the place that saw empires rise and fall, where prophecies were planted thousands of years ago. What really gave witnesses chills was how wrong the conditions were for a thunderstorm. The sky was clear, or just had thin clouds scattered around. No strong winds, no rain, no low-pressure system, no warning signs at all. Yet bright flashes kept ripping through the night, lighting up wide stretches of land along the valley. The thunder echoed for miles, bouncing off cliffs and hitting people's chests like a warning you couldn't ignore. Those lightning bolts didn't come at random. They repeated in strange patterns, with clear rhythms and pauses, almost like they were programmed. No rain fell, no wind picked up, but the sounds were deep and steady, making many folks say it sounded more like ancient trumpets than regular thunder. The echoes hung in the air longer than normal, as if the sky didn't want to quiet down too soon after speaking. Right here, this whole scene matches up in an eerie way with what the Bible foretold. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 27, where Jesus uses lightning to describe the moment of his return. For as lightning that comes from the east is visible, even in the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. In Scripture, lightning isn't just weather. It's a sign of God's power breaking through, a moment when heaven won't stay silent about humanity's fate anymore. Weather experts were quickly called in, and they labeled it a climate oddity, a side effect of environmental changes, some rare buildup of electrical charge. But even they had to admit the data showed no real conditions to trigger something like this. The timing was too perfect, the patterns too orderly, and the total lack of normal storm elements made every explanation feel forced. Do you think this is a divine warning? or just a rare freak of nature in a changing world. The debate has exploded between those who believe God is speaking up and those holding tight to familiar science. But if these lightning strikes are just the opening act, a warm-up sent from the Euphrates sky, then what will come next from those same flashes of light? And will your spirit be strong enough to face it when the meaning behind the lightning finally shows itself? 4. Image of Jesus appearing in lightning light. In the bright glow of the morning sky over the Euphrates River, something even more troubling starts to form. Surprising theologians and believers alike, a shining image appears not in nighttime lightning, but in the sunlight reflecting through layers of white clouds, so clear that people can't look away. The sky is blue and calm. No storms, no chaotic darkness, just a peaceful morning. And that very peace makes the moment scarier than ever. This doesn't happen in just one spot. Along the Euphrates, stretching through parts of Syria and Iraq, over several mornings in a row, the same sight is reported. No set time, no ritual, no warning. The early sunlight pours down on thick clouds, then suddenly bends, gathers, and rearranges, as if the sky is being turned into a giant screen to show a message that was planned long ago. In that instant, amid the soft golden and silvery white light, a human figure emerges clearly, standing tall among the clouds, like it's wrapped in light. Not a faint shadow that passes by, but a real shape with proportions, posture, and an overwhelming presence. The image lasts long enough for witnesses to catch their breath, to feel a sense of authority pressing on their minds, but at the same time, it gives off a deep peace, leaving many people standing still, unable to say a word. The light doesn't flicker wildly. It stays steady in a strange way, as if the sun itself is being used as a tool to reveal something beyond the natural. Many describe the feeling like time slowed down. The wind went quiet, and all the random thoughts in their heads suddenly settled, leaving only the figure standing strong against the blue sky and white clouds. For those familiar with the Bible, it feels a lot like what the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 30, says about the prophecy of the sign of the Son of Man appearing in the sky. Then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. What's worth noting is that the Bible doesn't say this sign has to appear in darkness or thunder, but on the clouds of heaven, where light and glory show up most clearly. Of course, skeptics quickly call it pareidolia, the way the brain puts familiar images together from light and clouds. But that explanation starts to fall apart when witnesses from different places, on different mornings, describe the same standing posture, the same feeling of being seen, the same heavy silence that covers everything after the image fades, not leaving chaos, but an emptiness that's hard to put into words. Some people seem stuck on the question of whether this is the real appearance of Jesus or just a trick of light in the human mind. That question is causing a strong clash between faith and reason. But if Jesus is truly revealing himself, not in the dark of night, but in the bright daytime, then the silence that follows, when the sky goes back to normal like nothing happened, might be the biggest warning of all, that the message has been sent and now it's up to those who saw it. 5. The world suddenly goes still, like everything just hit the pause button. It happens along the Euphrates River basins in Iraq, where an eerie silence falls out of nowhere, like some invisible command from above. No words needed, but nobody dares to ignore it. It's not the usual quiet of the desert, but a chilling emptiness, where all the familiar sounds of life get sucked away in just a few seconds, as if someone ordered the whole creation to stop. This takes place across harsh desert stretches and dry plains, where the wind never seems to quit blowing, and dust always hangs in the air. But in that moment, the air suddenly feels heavy, the wind stops dead, and fine dust clouds hang frozen in place for miles around. Witnesses describe it like the world's pressure just shifted, making their chests tighten in total silence. The scariest part isn't with the people, it's how the animals react. Herds of goats, sheep, and camels that were moving along suddenly freeze in place, standing perfectly still, heads half lowered or raised mid-motion, eyes open but unresponsive. No panic, no struggling, no alarm calls. They stand like living statues for about 7 minutes, a number that gives a lot of folks the chills when they think about the eerie coincidence. Then, just as suddenly as it started, everything ends. Movement picks back up, leaving a cold fear in the space that had been frozen. And does that moment ever give you a strong sense of déjà vu? Yeah, it's no surprise, because the book of Revelation, chapter 8, verse 1, mentions something similar long ago, the time right before major events are unleashed. When the Lamb opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. In the prophetic context, that silence isn't just empty, it's a heavy pause, the moment before divine judgment and action take place. Skeptics try to explain it with familiar ideas: mass hypnosis, magnetic field changes, infrasound waves, or extreme weather. But there's no seismic data, no signs of predators, no weather event strong enough to make different animal species freeze calmly at the same time. It's the total lack of chaos that baffles scientists the most. Is this phenomenon just a random coincidence? Or a wordless proclamation? A command to be still, handed down to all creation? The debate explodes quickly, splitting beliefs and reason, forcing people to face the possibility that nature doesn't just follow physical laws, but also things beyond our current understanding. But if creation itself obeyed that brief pause, then the secrets waiting to be uncovered under the Euphrates might be far more terrifying than anything we've ever imagined. 6. The mysterious man-made tunnel entrance under the Euphrates. Deep under the Euphrates River in ancient Mesopotamia, a buried entrance suddenly came to light, as if the river itself had to give up a secret it had guarded for thousands of years. It wasn't just some random crack or natural sinkhole. No, this was a planned structure, built with cold precision that made the first people who saw it stand still, hearts pounding, feeling like they were messing with something that shouldn't be disturbed. The spot was found near the ruins of Babylon, where the river bottom showed a sharp-edged opening. The cuts were clean and neat, going against any normal river erosion. The water flowing around it didn't wear down those stone edges, like the shape was somehow protected. Light shining down revealed a sloped path going deeper, with a carefully controlled angle, steep enough for people to walk but not slip and fall. That was a clear sign of ancient smart engineering. The deeper you go, the stranger it gets. The tunnel walls are smooth and stretch almost 200 feet, strengthened with petrified wood and tightly packed stones, with no signs of collapsing, no graffiti, no pagan symbols, no traces of strange worship. Instead, there's this strict sense of order, like the place wasn't built for living in, but for protecting something, sealing it away, and keeping it completely quiet. At the end of the tunnel is a closed chamber, sealed off tight, where Paleo-Hebrew letters carved deep into the stone are still amazingly sharp. Clear Levite symbols show up: oil jars, palm branches, pairs of hands raised in blessing in a solemn way. Broken bronze pieces with marks of the priestly Kohanim line were scattered around, but absolutely no idols, no images of foreign sacrifices, not one sign of wrong worship. What shocks people even more is connecting this to the Bible, making the find feel explosive. In Revelation 9:14, a voice says to the sixth angel, "Release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates." For many scholars, that verse was never just symbolic. And now, with a structure deliberately hidden right under that river, the question shifts from, is it real, to, how close are we getting? Skeptics quickly call it ancient ruins, maybe a hideout, or religious storage spot. But the perfect symmetry, the amazing preservation, and the total lack of anything random make that argument shaky. No signs of looting, no messy sediment layers, like this place wasn't meant to be opened until a set time. The big question hangs there. Was this a hiding place for ancient priests? Or an end-time seal meant to hold back something that shouldn't see the light of day? The debate explodes. stirring up old fears buried deep in people's minds. And if this tunnel is really guarding a bound entity, then whatever shapes are waiting behind that final seal could unleash a horror the world isn't ready to face. 7. Large stone statues of winged figures in chains. It's no longer a question of what else will we find, but the moment when the space ahead seems to refuse to let humans go any further. The temperature in the cave drops suddenly, sounds get swallowed up, and that feeling of being watched tightens your chest. It tells you that whatever is waiting deeper inside isn't meant for light, and it sure isn't meant for innocent curiosity. From a side tunnel that branches off the main path under the Euphrates River, a huge hall opens up, unusually wide and tall, like it wasn't dug for people, but for beings way bigger than humans. No footprints, no disturbed dirt, no signs of modern entry. Everything is still perfectly untouched, like a room that's been locked since the very beginning of history. In the dim flashlight beams, massive stone blocks slowly come into view. These aren't ordinary statues. They're winged human-like figures standing still, with huge bodies, long arms and legs, broad chests like ancient warriors, and stiff wings folded tight behind their backs. Their pose isn't one of fighting, it's heads bowed, forced into total submission. What really gives you chills isn't the shape of them, but the chains. Giant metal links, made from some kind of unknown iron alloy, melted and fused right into the stone floor, sunk deep like tree roots into the earth. These don't just bind, they anchor, as if designed to hold something forever, with no chance of escape. What makes us stop and think is that this discovery matches exactly what Jude 1-6 says in the Bible. And the angels who did not keep their positions of authority, but abandoned their proper dwelling, these he has kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment on the great day. Words that used to sound like metaphor now feel like a cold, scary description of something real. Some people call these symbolic sculptures. But the size is way beyond anything for rituals. The way the metal is perfectly fused with the stone defies ancient technology, and there's no sign of worship or honor anywhere. Archaeologists are puzzled because this doesn't look like art. It looks like a prison. The debate has exploded. If it's just symbolic, why bury it so deep, seal it up, and reinforce it like a forever jail? But if it's real, then the line between myth and history has been ripped apart. The idea of fallen angels isn't staying quietly on the pages of old books anymore. And then there's that final question hanging over us like a knife. Are these chains starting to weaken? With signs appearing in the sky, on the earth, and along the Euphrates River all at the same time. Is it all just coincidence? Or pieces of one big picture slowly coming together? If these strange signs are truly connected, then what's coming won't need an introduction. It'll just step out, and the world will have to face it. And that's it. We've just gone through 7 mysterious events that have happened recently. Which one impressed you the most or grabbed your attention? Let us know your answer in the comments below. These 7 events, when you put them side by side, aren't just random pieces anymore. They connect, overlap, and tighten into one scary big picture. From the sky getting torn open by strange lights, to the ground suddenly going quiet. From signs up high, to secrets sealed deep under the Euphrates River. Everything moves like it's guided by the same invisible beat, a warning that's getting louder bit by bit. The winged woman falling from the sky isn't just a shocking sight anymore. When you set it next to the light piercing through clouds and those unusual lightning bolts, it becomes the first sign of things getting out of order. Up above, the sky isn't peaceful anymore. Down below, the earth isn't indifferent. The whole creation seems to be joining in a series of signals sent on purpose. That heavenly light breaking through the clouds isn't just some weather thing when it happens at the same time as these other strange signs. It's like a thin crack between two worlds, where the line between heaven and earth gets thinner. Everyone who saw it talks about feeling woken up, like something is looking straight down at them. Then the Euphrates speaks up, not with words, but with lightning. Bolts that don't follow the rules. No rain, no wind, sounding like ancient trumpets. Matthew 24-27 once warned, "For just as lightning comes from the east and shines as far as the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be." When that light flashes across the sky now, that Bible verse doesn't just sit quietly on the page anymore. The image of Jesus appearing in the morning light, against a blue sky with white clouds, pushes the chain of signs to its peak. No more thunder or darkness, but pure, clear light, full of authority. Matthew 24-30 says, "Then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then all the peoples of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." That appearance doesn't shout, but its quietness makes people tremble. And then the whole world holds its breath. A sudden silence falls over the Euphrates area. Animals frozen still, like they're held by some invisible command. No panic, no running away, just total obedience. Revelation 8-1 puts it clearly. When the Lamb opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. This silence isn't empty, it's heavy. Like the pause before something unstoppable happens. As people start digging deeper, both literally and figuratively, what's been hidden comes out. The man-made tunnels under the Euphrates don't look like shelters. They look like sealed structures. Those Levite symbols, those priestly marks, aren't about worship but about guarding something. Revelation 9:14 warns, "Release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates." The question now isn't if, but when. And even deeper, those winged stone figures chained up stand silent in the dark, not like idols being worshipped, but like prisoners sentenced forever. Jude 1-6 says it straight, "And the angels who did not keep their positions of authority, but abandoned their proper dwelling, these he has kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment on the great day." Those metal chains fused into the rock are a cold confirmation that this is a prison, not a temple. When these 7 events are put together, they form a worrying sequence. Signs in the sky, the earth's response, the silence of all living things, and ancient seals being touched. Luke 21:25 once warned, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." This isn't coincidence. It's all echoing together. The bigger picture in the Bible shows a familiar pattern. Before every major turning point, God always warns. He doesn't come suddenly in total silence. He sends signs so those who are still alert can recognize them. The trumpets in Revelation, the bound angels, the strange signs in the sky, all of it is being repeated in the language of our time. And the scariest part isn't what's already happened, but how fast they're piling up now. The gaps between the signs are getting shorter, the intensity stronger. Time, like sand slipping through your fingers, is running out while people keep arguing if this is random or a warning. The final message, looking at the whole picture, hits hard and clear. Humanity doesn't have much time left. This isn't a threat, it's a call. God is warning about the end times, not to spread blind fear, but to wake up those who can still listen. These 7 events don't end the story. They open a door. And once that door starts to crack open, the only thing left for people is a choice. Keep turning away or stop. Look straight at these strange signs and get ready for what's coming very soon. When I look back on the whole journey through these 7 signs, what sticks with me isn't some vague fear, but a deep sense of awakening. These things didn't show up to scare humanity. They're here to wake up our sleeping consciences. They're like bells ringing in the dark night, reminding us that this world doesn't stand still, and history is moving fast toward a point of no return. Jesus warned that before everything is finished, there'd be signs in the heavens and on the earth, not to cause panic, but to help people discern and get ready. What we've just looked at, even if it's still debated, carries the same basic message. Wake up, repent, and be prepared. This isn't a condemnation. It's an invitation to return to the heart of faith and what makes us truly human. In a noisy world where news floods in and truth can get blurred, staying awake takes real courage. Awake so we don't get swept away. Awake to pause, examine ourselves, and ask, am I living like time is endless? Or like every day is a gift to cherish? So the call right now isn't to panic, it's to act in quiet ways. Watch, pray, and reflect. Don't just look at the changing world out there. Look inside yourself too. Time isn't endless, and putting things off can be the most dangerous choice of all. If you're feeling that something is shifting, if today's world feels different from just a few years ago, listen to that feeling. It might not be your imagination. Do you agree that the world is shaking and the end times are closer than ever? Leave a prayer or a thought below as a way for us to share and wake up together. But remember, everything we've talked about is just one small piece of a much bigger picture. What's coming in the next videos might shock you even more. It could make you rethink things you thought were certain. The signs haven't stopped, and the story is still unfolding. So don't forget to follow us so you won't miss any of the signs that are slowly appearing. Every sign matters, and every moment of awakening is precious. Thank you for sticking with me right to the end of this journey. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you in the next parts as more truth comes to light.
A sail vessel, so there's the mast is still in place, and what gave the game away as to its actual.
The Amazon rainforest is burning and thick smoke is blacking out the sun in parts of
In recent years, the news has been coming fast and furious, like the urgent beat of a drum marking time, the ground shaking, the oceans changing color, fires breaking out, and strange signs we can hardly name keep showing up one after another. The world isn't moving slow and steady anymore, it's being rushed towards some kind of turning point. Do you feel that quicker pace? Or are we slowly getting used to things that ought to scare us? The Bible warned us plainly about a time like this. Jesus said that wars, famines, and earthquakes are just the beginning of birth pains. But what's really striking is that these signs aren't only happening on the earth. They're showing up in the sky above and in the deep oceans too, like a whole series of signals lighting up at the same time. Is this just coincidence? Or is heaven's clock ticking? In this video, we'll look at 7 events that have shocked people around the world. Each one is a piece of the puzzle, and when you put them side by side, they form a picture that makes you stop and wonder, if the Bible predicted all this ahead of time, how much time do we have left to wake up? So please don't miss a thing. And now, we'll dive into each of these signs and events, the ones filled with the messages from Scripture that God wants to send to His children. Let's get started with 1. A hydrocarbon eruption. The ground cracks open in the middle of the desert. In what seemed like a quiet, lifeless desert, the ground suddenly shook and tore itself apart. A thick, bubbling liquid, like hot tar, came surging up from deep below, creating a deep crater right there in the dry sand and rocks. Word spread fast, and the area was quickly closed off because no one knew what else might be building up under the surface. We're looking at a moment when nature isn't staying quiet anymore, and you can really feel the urgency in every frame of the video that's been captured. Geologists call this a hydrocarbon eruption, where oil or natural gas that's been trapped under pressure suddenly finds a way out. But what really gives you chills isn't the scientific name, it's the timing and how sudden it was. In this barren land that seemed to have been sleeping peacefully for hundreds of years, the surface cracked open like an invisible hand snapped it in two. The earth isn't standing still anymore, and you can sense that something big is waking up way down below. The dark, thick liquid erupted forcefully, throwing dirt and rocks everywhere and forming a round crater like a fresh wound on the earth's skin. Hot gas rose up in clouds, and the strong smell of hydrocarbons filled the air, bringing a real sense of danger and unease. Authorities had to hurry and put up barriers because of the risks of sinking ground or explosions. This isn't just some geological event. We're watching the ground groan, literally, as if it can't take any more. Revelation 6:12 describes it. I watched as the Lamb opened the sixth seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black, like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red. These cracks opening up and the unusual shaking of the earth remind us of the moment the seals are opened, when the old order starts to fall apart. Joel 2:30 also warns, I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and billows of smoke. That bubbling liquid and the hot gas rising like columns of smoke in the desert. It's almost a perfect picture of those prophetic words. Luke 21:11 goes on to say, there will be great earthquakes, and there will be terrors and great signs from heaven. When you put this event alongside all the other upheavals happening around the world lately, the signs don't seem scattered anymore. You can see that things are picking up speed and intensity, like one warning bell after another that we can't ignore. A lot of folks try to calm everyone down by saying it's just a natural thing, and science can explain how it works. But science doesn't tell us why these are exploding all at once, with so many other strange signs across the globe. We know how the ground cracks, but the why now is still a big open question. And in that gap, the Bible speaks up as a reminder that the earth is groaning, waiting for the day of judgment that's already set. And this story from the crack deep in the ground isn't over yet. We'll move on next to another sign, this one involving water, where the sea itself turns color right after a rainstorm, as if every part of creation is speaking out together. 2. Blood Red Sea on Hormuz Island. After what seemed like a harmless heavy rain, the water along the shore of Hormuz Island suddenly turned color in a flash. The blue sea got swallowed up by a bright red, spreading fast along the rocky, dry coastline. It made for a sight that was both amazing and a little scary. Videos of that moment show the change didn't happen slow. It was like some hidden signal went off all at once, making folks watching feel like time was squeezing in tight. Hormuz Island has long been known for its red soil, full of iron oxide, but that familiar stuff had never poured straight into the sea with this kind of force before. From up high, a dark red stream flowed from the land out into the ocean, stretching for miles, and standing out in a haunting way against the bits of blue water left behind. We're looking at a boundary that's getting blurred, where land and sea aren't clearly separate anymore, like the natural order is quietly turning upside down. That red isn't the bright kind from coral or a sunset. It's a heavy, thick red that brings to mind thinned-out blood mixing with water. The ocean, a symbol of life and movement, suddenly took on the look of a warning sign. The sight is beautiful in a dangerous way, because the longer you look, the more it feels like you're facing a message that's not meant just to enjoy. Exodus 7:20-21 puts it plain. All the water in the river turned to blood, the fish in the river died, and the river smelled bad. In the Bible, when water changes color like that, it's never a small thing. It marks the moment when God's power steps right into the natural order to wake people up. The picture at Hormuz brings that memory back strong, like an old shadow just passed over the modern sea. Revelation 16:3 goes even further. The second angel poured out his bowl on the sea, and it turned into blood like that of a dead person, and every living thing in the sea died. And in Revelation 8:8, that prophecy gets stressed more when the sea gets hit by fire and destruction. When you put the red at Hormuz next to these Bible verses, the likeness isn't just in the science details. It's in the urgent feeling it plants in people's hearts. Science was quick to explain it as red algae or soil getting washed away after rain, and those explanations are right about how it works. But history shows that similar things have shown up many times before big disasters, like warnings ahead of time. What makes folks unable to brush it off is the timing. With so many other strange signs happening all at once around the world, like pieces of a puzzle starting to fit together. The sea turning blood red, in Bible language, has never been just something to look at. It's a direct warning that even the oceans aren't outside the plan for judgment that's already set. And from that red-tinted water, the story goes even further, leading us to a shocking discovery, where traces of Noah's Ark, the symbol of the first judgment, are said to have shown up almost completely intact. 3. Discovery of Noah's Ark intact. While the world is still arguing about strange signs in the sky and on the earth, another piece of news suddenly came out, carrying the weight of salvation history itself. Researchers announced new evidence showing that Noah's Ark isn't just something from the pages of the Bible anymore. It's shown up with a structure that's almost completely intact. This news spread fast, not loud like a natural disaster, but it made a lot of folks go quiet, because it hits right at a story that humanity thought was closed thousands of years ago. For many years, the mountains around Ararat have been the focus of quiet searches, not with big public campaigns or fancy satellite scans, but with patient work, clearing away layer after layer of dirt and rock buried by time. When the last covering was removed, a familiar shape appeared in the cold mountains. We're witnessing a historic moment, and you can feel plain as day that this wasn't some accidental find. The huge wooden structure slowly came into view, with clear compartments, sizes, and proportions that match the Bible's description in an amazing way. Inside, the marks of ancient building are still there, like the Ark had just finished its mission yesterday. Not just scattered pieces of wood, but a whole orderly thing, enough to make the natural rock idea look pretty weak against what's right in front of our eyes. Genesis 7:23 says it clear. Every living thing that breathed on dry land died. Only Noah and those with him in the ark stayed alive. The ark wasn't just a rescue boat. It was the line between life and judgment. When those remains show up again, it's not just retelling an old story. It reminds us there was a time when humanity was wiped out because of its corruption. Matthew 24-37. 39 continues the warning. As it was in Noah's days, so it will be when the Son of Man comes. They didn't realize what was happening until the flood came and swept them all away. We read these words today, with the ark said to have appeared, and it gives you a chilling sense of coincidence. Not because floods are rising, but because of how indifferent people are to signs that are familiar and scary. 2 Peter 2-5 adds to it. He didn't spare the ancient world, but protected Noah when he brought the flood on the world of the ungodly. This discovery is like living proof, showing the Bible's words aren't vague or just symbolic. It reminds us that judgment by water really happened once, and the Bible makes it clear the next judgment won't be by water. A lot of people still try to deny it, saying it's just a natural rock formation that's been overinterpreted. But the petrified wood, the intentional compartments, and the exact sizes make that doubt harder to hold on to. This find doesn't force anyone to believe, but it does make folks rethink how reliable the Bible is and the times we're living in. From the memory of the great flood and that rescue ark, the story doesn't stop at water. It goes on to another picture in the Bible, when fire shows up as the next tool of judgment, and those forests in South America burning fiercely, like a reminder that's hard to ignore. 4. Intense wildfires in Chile. After the marks left by the Great Flood, the prophetic picture suddenly shifts to a different color, one that's fierce and blazing hot. In the Quilamuta, Lo Encañado area of San Pedro de Melipilla, Chile, a big forest fire broke out almost without warning. In just a short time, the flames spread at an unbelievable speed, getting past all the early efforts to control them. It wasn't just some isolated accident anymore. It quickly became the center of attention, putting the whole area under extreme stress. The fire suddenly shot up high and started moving toward the Maipo River, forcing the authorities to declare an emergency and organize evacuations for the people. Familiar roads turned into escape routes, and homes stood on that thin line between being saved or lost. In moments like that, we realize just how small we are compared to the unstoppable power of fire. Does this feeling seem familiar to you? Like history repeating itself in a different way? What made many witnesses uneasy wasn't just the size of it, but the nature of the fire itself. The flames burned very clean, with little thick black smoke like you see in typical forest fires. There were tall columns of fire, bright and glowing, burning through the trees quickly and neatly, leaving a feeling more like some kind of purification than pure chaos. A lot of folks watching from afar couldn't figure out why the scene had such a solemn, cold dignity to it. Revelation 8-7 once described hail and fire mixed with blood. A third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. When you compare that to what's happening in Chile, anyone who reads the Bible has to pause and think. The images of trees burned to nothing, fire sweeping through the forest like a wave of judgment. It brings to mind those warnings written so long ago, meant for the final days of human history. 2 Peter 3-7 adds that the heavens and earth that now exist are stored up for fire, being kept until the day of judgment. Fire in the Bible isn't just about destruction. It also refines and purifies. Amos 1-4 says clearly, "I will send fire, and it will consume." When you put these Bible verses next to the burning forests, their meaning doesn't feel distant or abstract anymore. Of course, many people say this is just the result of climate change and dry weather. That explanation makes sense scientifically, but it still leaves a question hanging. Why did the fire burn so clean and strangely, with little toxic smoke, looking more like refining fire than natural wildfire? Could it be that we're seeing layers of meaning all in one event? The wildfires in Chile, then, aren't just an environmental disaster. They're like a living prophetic image of the judging fire the Bible says will come to purify the earth in the last days. And while the embers are still smoldering on the ground, the story doesn't end there. From these towering flames, we'll move on to something even more controversial. A mysterious entrance to an underground base discovered in Zion National Park. 5. The hidden entrance to an underground base in Zion Park. From those blazing pillars of fire on the ground, the story suddenly turns in a whole different direction, quieter, but just as unsettling. At Zion National Park in the USA, a hiker stumbled upon a strange passageway tucked between two big rocks. No signs, no tourist markers, just a dark crevice sitting there quietly, like it's waiting for someone to walk in. Zion is famous for its sandstone cliffs shaped over millions of years, with those smooth, curving rock walls that follow nature's rules. But this passage is completely different. It's off the beaten path, not on any regular trail, and it looks deliberately placed, as if someone meant to keep it out of sight. Between the huge rocks, there's a narrow slit that's perfectly straight, with edges so sharp and even, it's hard to believe. No random erosion marks, no natural cracks spreading out like you'd see in regular rock splits. That opening leads deep into thick darkness, where light seems to get swallowed up after just a few steps, giving the feeling of a place not meant for people. It's that too perfect quality that sparked all kinds of theories. Some folks think it's an entrance to an underground base from a civilization not of this earth. Others sense something much older, full of mystery. Have you ever wondered what might happen if the ground is really hiding doors like that, and they get opened? The Bible talks about times when the line between heaven and earth wasn't sealed up like it is now. Genesis 6-4 mentions the giants and the mighty men of old, beings that didn't quite belong to our familiar world. Those verses paint a picture of an era when other powers were openly here on the earth. Jude 1-6 goes even further, talking about the fallen angels kept in chains of darkness until the great day of judgment. If they're really locked away, where's that prison? Maybe not up in the heavens, but deep in the earth, behind doors that people rarely notice. Revelation 9-1-2 describes a scene worth thinking about. The pit of the abyss opened up, smoke rising like from a huge furnace, darkening the sky. That's not like the burning fires in Chile. It's an unveiling, something breaking in from a sealed-off dimension. In this light, The passage at Zion feels more like a symbol than just some geological fluke. A lot of people say it's simply a natural rock split or a rare, narrow cave, but the shape is too precise, the spot too hidden, and the uneasy feeling it gives off make that explanation fall short. Sometimes what scares us isn't the answer. It's realizing there are questions we shouldn't wake up, whether it's a trace of off-world technology or a door tied to ancient dark forces. The entrance at Zion is something worth pondering. It reminds us that the unseen powers the Bible warned about haven't gone away. They might just be hiding, waiting for the right moment. And from those dark underground paths, our eyes get drawn back up to the sky, where another strange sign is showing up. An odd halo around a snow-capped mountain peak. 6. Oval-shaped glory over the snowy mountain. Up on those snow-covered mountain slopes, where folks usually figure it's just cold, wind, and dead quiet, something happened that turned everything we thought we knew upside down. It wasn't a loud bang or a flash of lightning. It was a light that showed up like it'd been there all along, just waiting for somebody to notice it. The first feeling wasn't fear. It was more like your mind just stops for a second, like when you realize you're standing in front of something way bigger than everyday words can handle. The weather that day was perfectly normal. No storm clouds, no thick fog, nothing unusual in the air that anybody recorded. The snowy mountain sat there in its usual cold stillness, the sky blue and wide with no warning at all. But right in that nothing to see here moment, an upright oval glow quietly appeared, making the whole scene feel like it got pulled out of ordinary life. That glow hovered just a foot or two off the ground, not touching the snow, not casting a clear shadow, and not making any sound. The snow around it wasn't falling random. It was swirling in steady circles, like it was following some unseen rhythm. We could see the light, but what really gave you chills was how orderly it all was. Nothing like the messy stuff nature usually throws at you. There are moments when people don't need to run around looking for answers, because the thing itself is the question. You might not say it out loud, but deep down, you feel like that sky wasn't just pretty, it was watching us back. Signs like this don't come to shock you. They plant a quiet unease that sticks around. The Bible talks about times when signs appear in the sky right along with things shaking down here on earth. Luke 21:25 warns there will be strange signs in the sun, moon, and stars, leaving people confused and scared. That glow among the snowy peaks, seen this way, feels like a quiet piece of a bigger picture that's slowly coming into view. Acts 2:19 goes on to say, "The Lord will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below." Like both places are speaking up at the same time. When you put this next to the big upheavals that happened before, you start noticing a familiar rhythm. Nothing scattered or lone anymore. Matthew 24-30 talks about the sign of the Son of Man appearing in the sky, not in meaningless chaos, but in power and glory. That oval glow didn't look like any plain or ordinary weather thing. It brought to mind those old symbolic descriptions where light isn't just for seeing, it's for signaling. Still, some scientists tried to calm everybody down by talking about light refraction or optical illusions. But when something has clear shape, position, and orderly movement, those plain technical explanations feel pretty thin against what people actually experienced. Not every sign is given so we understand it right away. Some things just need to be noticed. That glory over the snowy mountain didn't force anybody to believe, and it didn't demand agreement. It just hung there quietly, the same way those great signs from heaven were talked about thousands of years ago. And from that light floating in midair, the story is about to come down to earth, where one final thing is happening. A huge stretch of land is being moved and carried away by water, as if the very foundation of the world isn't standing still anymore. 7. A large farm area breaks off and floats away with the water. There was no light hanging in the sky anymore, no fire or smoke to warn us ahead of time. This time, the sign came from the very thing we trust to stay steady, the ground under our feet. One ordinary morning, The familiar line between dry land and flowing water suddenly blurred, like someone quietly lifted the whole foundation and set it drifting. It happened after heavy rain and some light shaking, but what followed went way beyond anything we'd seen before. Not a chunk of land crumbling apart, not a messy slide, no, a whole big farm area broke off in one solid piece. The cut edge was so sharp it gave you chills, as if the land itself decided to leave the spot it had always held. That block of earth floated down the river like an unwanted island. On it, the trees still stood tall. The fences stayed in place. Even the houses didn't collapse. They just quietly moved along with the current. We're looking at something that's not about sudden destruction, but about shifting, like the world is being rearranged without asking us first. There's something really strange about seeing that. You don't panic right away, but a hard-to-name emptiness hits you inside, because what we always thought was permanent now feels temporary. We're used to believing the ground is where we put down roots, our solid base. But that moment shows even the base can walk away. Revelation 6:14 doesn't start with total destruction. It begins with a slow but cold movement. The sky receded like a scroll, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. Not crashing down, not exploding, just moved. When a whole farm area floats away with the water, we see that prophecy isn't about things falling apart. It's about the familiar order being pulled away, showing the fragility we've tried to hide. Revelation 16:20 takes it further, when it doesn't just say removed, but every island fled away. Islands don't sink in a flash. Mountains don't collapse right in front of us, but they vanish from spots we thought were forever. That drifting land is like a scary preview. Everything's still there, but no longer where it belonged. Isaiah 24:19, 20 doesn't look from high up. It pulls us down to the swaying ground. The earth reels like a drunkard, not shaking once and done, but a long-lasting wobble that leaves people unsure if they're standing on solid ground or just something makeshift. When the land still exists, but won't stay still, the unease doesn't come from disaster. It comes from having no truly safe foothold left. Of course, some folks don't believe in spiritual things and say this was just a big landslide from rain and weak soil. But when a large area breaks off completely intact and drifts away as one unit, that explanation falls short. The size and shape of it go beyond what we usually call random. This isn't just a geological mishap. It's a clear picture of the prophecy, the day when every mountain and island is removed from its place. No trumpets or seals needed, just the ground starting to leave, and people already know the familiar world isn't as sure as it used to be. And when we put this event next to the 6 signs that came before, the picture starts coming together. These 7 pieces don't stand alone. They fit to form a full warning, quiet but clear, that we're living in the days the Bible talked about long ago, days when even the foundations of the world won't stay put. We've just gone through the 7 most striking events from recent times. Which one impressed you the most and really caught your attention? When you put these 7 events side by side, they're no longer just random news stories floating around. They start to fit together, overlap, and form a scary kind of orderly picture. Not the kind of order people make, but the order of signs that are getting stronger, like the heartbeat of an era about to enter its deciding phase. The ground opening up in the desert and a whole farming area breaking off and floating away with the water, those are the start and end of the same big shift. The earth isn't staying still anymore. It's starting to move, like it's being shaken from its old foundation. Revelation 6 and Revelation 16 talked about this long ago, describing how every mountain and every island would be moved from its place without any noise, just at the right time. The sea turning the color of blood and fires burning up forests aren't 2 separate disasters by chance. They directly echo the bowls of wrath and the trumpets in Revelation, where water and fire become tools for warning. Revelation 8-8, 9, and Revelation 16-3 both make it clear. When the sea and the land get struck at the same time, That's when people can't pretend anymore that everything is still normal. Finding traces of Noah's Ark opens up an even deeper meaning. It's not just archaeological proof. It's a living memory of a judgment that already happened once. Genesis 7 says the old world was wiped clean by water, and only those inside the ark survived. When that piece of memory gets brought back to the present, it's not to satisfy curiosity, it's to remind us that the history of judgment isn't some old fairy tale. Matthew 24-37-39 compares the final days to the days of Noah, when people kept eating, drinking, marrying, and going about life as usual right up until the flood came. The parallel isn't in the type of disaster, but in people's attitude, getting so used to warnings that they stop hearing them. It's easy for us to fall into that same spot. The hidden entrance found inside a mountain and the glowing ring appearing in the snowy sky form a strange pair of opposites. One opens into the dark depths of the earth, the other shows light hanging high above. Revelation 9-1, talks about the pit of the abyss being opened, while Luke 21:25 and Matthew 24-30 mention signs in the heavens. These two directions, working at once, show the world is being hit from many layers of reality. We don't have to label every event exactly to get their overall message. What's important is how these signs are showing up faster and faster, spread out over land, sea, and sky. Can you feel it? That time seems to be getting squeezed, and events aren't waiting on each other like they used to? When the Bible talks about birth pains, Matthew 24-8 isn't describing one single event. It's a series of pains that get more frequent and stronger. What we're seeing has exactly that pattern. Each thing could be explained on its own, but together they form the familiar rhythm of prophecy entering its final stage. What's striking is that these signs aren't just happening in one area or one culture. From the Middle East to South America, from deserts to snowy mountains, from deep in the ground to up in the sky, everywhere has its echo. Revelation isn't talking about one small corner of the world. It's about the whole order being shaken. And today's picture reflects that clearer than ever. Maybe what confuses people most isn't how intense it is, but the feeling that everything is happening right on time. Science can explain the how, geology, the pressure, weather, the conditions, but no field explains why all the signs are coming together in this short stretch of history. That's the gap the Bible left for us to think about. Revelation 1-3 says, "Blessed are those who read and hear these prophecy words, because the time is near." That verse isn't meant to scare us, it's to wake us up. We're not called to panic, but to realize we're living in a time when we can't put things off anymore. Do you see it? It's hard to deny that the big picture is getting sharper. When these 7 events connect, they don't just tell a story about nature, they tell about a world getting close to a turning point. We're standing on the line between everything keeps going and everything's about to change. The Bible always stresses that signs aren't given to feed curiosity, they're to help people get ready. Matthew 24-42 says, "So stay awake, because you don't know the day your Lord is coming." That watchfulness isn't blind fear. It's clear awareness of the value of every moment we have left. Looking at these 7 events as a whole, one thing becomes unavoidable. Humanity doesn't have much time left to stay indifferent. Not because the exact date is announced, but because the signs have all lit up at once. The end times don't come with one big bang. They come with a series of heartbeats getting faster in history. And in that rhythm, each of us has to ask where we stand in the Bible's bigger picture. The 7 signs have shown up, the picture is closing in, and the warning isn't just on the page anymore. It's right in front of our eyes. These 7 events and happenings didn't just show up on their own, and they didn't happen by chance. When you put them all in the same time frame, in the same world situation, they sound like the final warning trumpets that the Bible talks about. Not to scare people, but to wake them up. Not to threaten, but to remind us that the time of grace won't last forever. The Bible shows that God always warns before he judges. From the days of Noah, through the prophets, all the way to the words of Jesus himself, that message has never changed. When the signs start coming one after another, that's the time for people to stop, look at themselves, and ask, where am I headed? And what am I really putting my trust in? Luke 21:28 doesn't tell us to hang our heads in panic. It says, look up, because your redemption is near. That's an invitation full of hope, but it's also a reminder of responsibility. Hope isn't for those who don't care. It's for the ones who are willing to stay awake and answer God's call. So the real action isn't about trying to guess the day or hour. It's about change that starts on the inside. Repentance isn't just words. It's a real turning around of the heart and the way we live. Prayer isn't just a habit. It's a living relationship with our Creator. Putting our trust in the Lord doesn't wait until everything falls apart. It starts right now, while the door is still open. Spreading good messages is part of staying awake too. In a world full of fear, division, and fake news, every word that brings light and every act that shows love matters. We're not called to condemn people, but to remind each other that there's still a way back and there's still grace for anyone who listens. If you're reading these lines right now, maybe there's something stirring in your heart, a thought, a concern, or a prayer you haven't said out loud yet. Don't keep it to yourself. Leave a prayer, a reflection, or just a quiet word from the heart in the comments below as your way of answering the call you just heard. If this touched you, please hit like to show support. Share it so others can think about it too. And subscribe to the channel so we can keep walking this path of staying awake together. Every interaction not only helps spread the message, it also shows you're choosing not to stay silent about the things that matter. Finally, thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to listen, to think it over, and to stay until the end. May God give you His peace, guide you in His light, and help us all stay awake enough to recognize the time we're living in before it's too late.
విగ్రహం కాదు బ్రెజిల్లో 2020లో ఏర్పాటు చేసిన స్టాచ్యూ ఆఫ్ లిబర్టీ విగ్రహం కూలిపోయింది.
Coming in, the ground is so full of water it can't hold anymore. More neighborhoods could be under threat.
These other campers weren't able to be saved.
That atmospheric river inundating the region.
Was visible from early hours today as dense smog, along with dropping temperature.
Alexis! Alexis! Oh my God!
What stage of history are we living in right now? When news keeps pouring in from all over the world, do you ever feel like time is speeding up? Like something really big is getting close? The Bible has long called this the last days, the time Jesus and the prophets talked about in Matthew 24, Luke 21, and Revelation, warning about signs that would show up for everyone to see. But the scary part isn't just one event here or there. It's how everything is happening at once, getting worse, and fitting together in a way that feels meaningful. Do you think these are just random disasters or pieces coming together? Do you sense that urgency in every news story, every video going viral these days? Coming up next are 7 recent events from around the world that have a lot of folks believing the Bible's scenario isn't some far-off prophecy anymore. It's playing out right in front of us. So don't miss a single detail. And now, so you don't have to wait any longer, let's dive right into these 7 big stories making headlines everywhere. And what they all have in common is they're loaded with Bible messages. Let's get started with 1. The Ravenita statue in Guaíba, Brazil, toppled by strong winds. The wind came up suddenly, fierce and relentless. In Guaíba, part of the Porto Alegre metro area in Rio Grande do Sul state, Brazil, something happened that left a lot of folks stunned. The Ravenita statue, about 98 feet tall, a copy of the Statue of Liberty, got completely knocked down by strong winds. In just a moment, this symbol that had stood tall for years was flat on the ground, like an invisible hand pushed it over without a second thought. Ravenita wasn't just some decoration. It stood for freedom, for progress, and the pride of modern people, an image that's real familiar around the world today. But that very symbol couldn't stand up to the unusual wind. News outlets like Brazil's G1, Reuters, and AP described winds stronger than normal, enough to wreck a structure built to last. Not a streetlight, not a roof, but a big, heavy, solid statue. When pictures of the fallen statue started spreading, a lot of people felt it was more than just a regular accident. The Bible talks about moments like this in words we're all used to. Revelation 18:2 says, "Babylon the Great has fallen. It has become a home for demons," talking about the downfall of a proud system built on human power, but without God as its foundation. The image of the statue falling also brings to mind Isaiah 21:9. Babylon has fallen. All the images of its gods lie shattered on the ground. In the Bible, idols aren't just stone or metal. They're symbols of what people worship instead of the Lord God. When an idol falls, it's a sign the old order is coming apart, even if folks haven't noticed yet. That feeling gets stronger when you compare it to Daniel 2:34-35, where the prophet describes a huge statue hit by a stone, not cut by human hands, and completely shattered. That stone became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. Human power, no matter how big and tall, can't stand when the time comes for the Lord's judgment. Of course, plenty of people were quick to say it was just unusual strong wind. But that unusual part doesn't stand alone. The statue had stood firm for years, carefully engineered, and now it falls right when the world is seeing one big upheaval after another. When signs like this pile up together, they're not just random anymore. They're like the last pieces of a puzzle falling into place. The fall of Havanita isn't just local news. It's like the first bell ringing, warning that the familiar symbols of the old way are starting to shake. And when one symbol goes down, bigger things behind it start to wobble too. Coming up soon, another event, stronger and right at the heart of world power, will keep adding to this chain of signs you can't ignore. 2. Sudden flash floods rising fast in Washington, D.C. The water doesn't rise slowly. We're seeing moments where, in just a few hours, Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, changes completely. Familiar streets suddenly turn into rushing rivers. Cars get swept away. Underpasses fill deep with muddy water. You see it too. This chaos isn't from war or riots, but from a flood that hits so fast people can't react in time. Washington, D.C. has always been seen as the center of power and order, home to those iconic political buildings. We're used to thinking of it as a safe fortress, protected by science, technology, and long-term planning. But reports from the Washington Post, CNN, and Fox News say water levels rose unusually high, causing serious damage to city infrastructure and showing how fragile our plans can be in an instant. As the water surges through the streets, it's easy to think of what Jesus warned about. Matthew 24:38-39 says, "In the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, right up to the day Noah entered the ark, and they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away." Life goes on as usual. Everything seems normal until a sudden flood wipes out the line between safety and chaos. That feeling of helplessness spreads not just in the flooded areas, but in the minds of folks watching the news updates. You feel it too, when those images of water rushing through the heart of the Capitol keep coming on screen. Luke 21:25 puts it clearly. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. That kind of panic doesn't need an ocean. It's right there in the middle of the city. Looking deeper, we're seeing echoes of the Great Flood in Genesis 7:17-20. The flood continued. The waters rose greatly on the earth. The Bible doesn't just record an old event, it leaves a pattern to warn us about the last days when floods become signs of judgment drawing near. Of course, many say it's all just the result of climate change. We don't deny that, but the Bible has long told us natural disasters will increase before the Lord returns.